Hi, I'm Nemitha Thevan-Miran, I-MAK's legal associate, and I'm going to walk you through how to read a patent. A patent might seem daunting when you first look at it, but once it's broken up into its parts, it's much more digestible. We're going to look at the title, abstract, filing date, inventors and assignees, references cited, the notice section, the summary, the background, a brief description of the drawings, the detailed description, and the claims. So this is I-MAK's drug patent book. It's a database covering the patents related to some of America's top-selling drugs. In order to pick a patent, I'm going to choose the drug Enbrel. This is an Amgen drug. I want to see all the device patents specifically. So I'm going to go select device patent type, and I want to see the active patent. So I'm going to click active. So you can see there's 65 results. So let's click on this patent. It'll first take you to Google Patents. Here you can download the actual patent document as it was issued by the Patent Office. So the title of this invention is Systems and Approaches for Sterilizing a Drug Delivery Device. This patent is for a device that uses radiation to sterilize drug containers. Let's start by looking at the claim section, which is definitively the most important part of the patent. For that, we have to go to the very last page of the patent. The claims describe the legal boundaries of the patent. So it is based on the claims that the applicant or patentee is able to assert the patent against potential infringers. This patent has 6 claims, however, other patents can have hundreds of claims. You can see here that Claim 1 is an independent claim, whereas Claims 2 through 6 are dependent claims, meaning they are dependent on Claim 1. If you infringe Claim 2, you also infringe Claim 1. But if you infringe only Claim 1, that doesn't necessarily mean that you infringe the other claims. Infringement is decided on a claim-by-claim basis. So in reality, you don't really infringe a patent, you infringe a claim. You need to practice every element of at least one claim to be accused of infringement. Now let's take a look at the first page of the patent. There's a lot of information packed in here. First, let's look at the inventors and assignee. The inventors are the people you generally picture when you think of a patent or an invention. They're the people who conceive of the invention. The assignee, on the other hand, is often a corporation. Here it's Amgen, the pharmaceutical company. It might be a university. It might be the same, but often in this day and age, and especially in the pharmaceutical industry, the inventor and the assignee are 2 different entities. The assignee owns the patent rights, so while the inventor is conceived of the actual invention, the assignee is able to assert the patent rights and owns the patent rights in general. And the assignee can transfer those patent rights to somebody else as well, but the patent document itself doesn't necessarily reflect the ultimate assignee. Next, we'll take a look at the filing date. The filing date is important for several reasons. One, it helps often determine the start of the patent term, although there are separate circumstances in which the start might be a different date. However, critically, it helps determine non-obviousness and novelty, and therefore the patentability. The patent examiner, when deciding whether to grant a patent, considers whether previous forms of knowledge already disclosed aspects or the entirety of the patent. Previous forms of knowledge might be a previous patent, a product, a scientific journal, a website, can come in a variety of forms. These materials or prior art are listed in the References Cited section, which can be found here. The References Cited section is not necessarily, and often is not, an exhaustive list of all prior art, as prior art is often discovered after a patent is granted. The notice section describes any patent term adjustments or patent term extensions. Those are delays caused by the PTO or the regulatory process that the applicant is able to benefit from and tack on to the end of their patent term. Here, the patentee benefited from 0 days. However, in some cases, the patent term extension or adjustment can add years to a patent term. There are a few sections that describe the invention in varying levels of detail. These include the abstract, background, and summary. The abstract is usually the shortest and most straightforward. Obviously, in order to deliver a drug via injection, everything has to be sterile so as to not promote microorganisms and therefore the spread of disease. So in the abstract, it describes that this invention aims to do that by generating radiation, and it emits this radiation and therefore sterilizes and/or disinfects the sealing interface. The background describes the general state of the field of the technology of the invention. It also generally describes the problem that the invention is attempting to solve. As one can guess, the summary provides a relatively detailed summary of the invention. It also critically includes a description of the claims in less legalese. And lastly, patents also include drawings that show how the invention works. These are described in the brief description of the drawings and the detailed description. Think of the brief description of the drawings as captions. It tells you what you're looking at, while the detailed description talks about how the invention is made, how the different mechanisms work with each other, and the different ways that the invention can be used. Hopefully I provided you with the tools to empower yourself to try to read a patent. If you want to find other patents and try to read them, you can go to I-MAK's drug patent book at drugpatentbook.i-mak.org.